John, can you give us an update on how talks with the Qataris are going in terms of helping hostages get out?
I really am not at liberty to get into too much detail, Jeff. What I can assure you is that we are still having discussions with our partners in the region, and the Qataris have been useful in that regard. We are continuing to have discussions about getting the hostages out.
Following up on MJ's question, the IDF has confirmed while you were standing here that the attack on the refugee camp and hospital was an Israeli one. How do you square that with what you're saying about Israel trying to avoid civilian deaths?
Again, you're getting me a little unawares here, Jeff. I didn't see that that comment. I didn't see that report. So I don't want to speculate about what might have happened or what might not have happened. What I can tell you is that we have indications that they are trying. I'm not predicting that on any given day they aren't going to fail to meet their own expectations about killing civilians. Sadly, our own experience as a military over the last 20 years has shown us that even with our best intentions and all the efforts that we put in to avoiding civilian casualties, we still cause them. And it's tragic each and every time. But I just, without the context of this event, I'm going to be careful about what I speculate on here.
People who are seeing the numbers, and you've also said it's been thousands, is there anything more you can say besides indications? What evidence do you have that Israel is trying not to
I was just,
kill
well, it's
civilians?
based on literally a daily conversation that we're having with our Israeli counterparts about their goals, their strategies, and their plans, and the questions that we would hope they're asking themselves, like we would ask ourselves before embarking on military operations.
Thank you. Admiral, just to talk about the fuel situation again in Gaza, the lack of fuel, the Ministry of Health, the director there, said that essentially that they're going to run out of fuel tomorrow. I was wondering if that aligns with your assessment of how the levels of fuel are, especially when it comes to the hospitals and the generators.
It's a similar timeline that we've heard from aid organizations in the UN. It's not totally out of the scope of what we heard from other actors, that it could be that soon.
Is that sense of trauma and sense of urgency being felt in the conversations about the need to get fuel into Gaza, especially when we're talking about hospitals, when we're talking about generators, babies on ventilators and those kinds of things? Is that sense of urgency being felt, and is it being heard by the Israelis as well?
It's absolutely being felt, and we have continued to communicate this with our Israeli counterparts. There's definitely a sense of urgency here.
John, a follow-up on the humanitarian pause. Given the recent comments from Prime Minister Netanyahu and kind of what we've seen in the last few days, are you getting any indication from the Israelis that this is something that they would even consider? And how much of a priority is this for the administration to get a humanitarian pause to make that happen?
I don't want to speak for the Israelis. I would tell you that they too want to get their hostages out. They too want to get those folks back home to their families, and they recognize that in order to do that safely, you're going to have some passage, some pause in the fighting to be able to do that so that they can get home safely. So in a general sense, they see the value in some kind of a localized temporary pause to get their folks back home.